is getting in.
Hello.
Hello. Can everyone see my blue screen?
Yep.
Good. Okay, I think we are all here. I just want to take a second to say welcome. My name is Amy Nelson, and I'm the Director of Development and Membership here at the museum, and I'm thrilled to be with you tonight. Normally, this is a time of our events where we would be in Disco Hall, milling about, having a drink, maybe having some coconut chicken and some past appetizers. And unfortunately, we're not quite there yet, but I hope in the not too distant future, we'll be able to gather again. But luckily, one of the nice things this allows us to do is do these fun breakout rooms. And so tonight, we have a great presentation that's just as fun and interesting as chatting at the bar. And so without further ado, I wanted to introduce Catherine and Jenny to talk a little bit about the specimens in our collection that help us to understand climate change in our own region and how our fits into our Action for Earth program tonight. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Catherine Early, who is our Barbara Brown Chair of Ornithology, and Jenny O'Neill Eglund, who has a master's in biology, and in addition to working at the museum, spends a lot of times in the collections department. So at this point, I would like to turn it over to Catherine.
All right, thank you for the introduction. And I didn't see Jenny before. Okay, you made it in, Jenny, great. Okay, I will kick us off. You can go to the next slide, please. Oh, do you think you could present it so it's a fuller screen? Thanks. Okay, great. So we're here to talk about museum collections, and Jenny and I are both going to be talking about the biology collections because that's what we're closely tied to. Museum collections of biodiversity specimens, like the Science Museum's biology department, and which you can see with me in this picture, are irreplaceable records of non-human life on Earth and how it has changed in the last few centuries. So we've been building museum collections over the last few centuries. And in that time, due to human activity, the Earth's environment has been changing at unprecedented rates. This is caused by climate change, but also by more tangible impacts like habitat loss and pollution. And these changes have an impact on the biodiversity, so on the plants and animals of the Earth. We can't literally travel back in time to compare what Earth's biodiversity looked like then, before we had all these human impacts, to what it looks like now. But museum specimens kind of let us do that because we can observe and document and study the changes in biodiversity that occur throughout the times during which they were collected. So, for example, biodiversity collections document where and when species occur because each specimen has a tag where its collection location and date is recorded, along with other valuable scientific information. This is important because you can't effectively plan to conserve a species in an area if you don't know what you have to start with or how it changes through time and through seasons. And even our understanding of species, of what species there are and what we have.
And with Mike Malachnik, Food on the Move.
Oh. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Even our understanding of what species we have comes from museums, as most new species today are actually described from, we can go back to the previous slide, we're still on that one, thanks, are actually described from the drawers of museum collections. Sometimes those new species have been in there for decades, waiting to be described, rather than organisms that we find out in field expeditions. And sometimes the signal of climate change is written into the very anatomy of organisms through the process of evolution. And so without the museum collections of the remains of plants and animals collected throughout the centuries, we would never be able to see this impact of our human activities. There's another aspect of biodiversity documented in museum collections that is directly influenced by climate change, And Jenny O'Neill England is going to talk about that. So we can go to the next slide, and I'm going to mute myself and let Jenny take over.
Thanks. Thank you. I'm Jenny, and today I get to talk to you about phenology, which, as you can see, is the study of cyclic and seasonal natural phenomena, especially as it relates to climate and plant and animal life. So some examples of this would be the arrival or departure of migratory bird species like this little barn swallow, or the timing of plants flowering and fruiting. That is obviously very reliant on what's going on in its habitat as far as temperature, humidity, amount of sunlight. And these observations affect stuff that we do every day, whether it's something recreational, like when do I plant my garden and what do I plant? I base these decisions on what is happening in my yard right now. What's the temperature been like? Has it been a wet spring? But also previous years too. How has it been going? Have I had success with my lupins? Less and less each year. And people like farmers make decisions like this too, even though it's a little bit more critical and less recreational. But these decisions are extremely important when it comes to when do I plant? When do I harvest? What do I plant? Do I need to make any changes? It can affect them financially. It can affect food supply. Conservation managers also use phenological observations and data to inform their management practices. As habitats change, areas can become more favorable for invasive species that can outcompete native species, including endangered species. And those will, probably change their distributions because of it, or they'll just cease to exist in a given space. So as these changes in our
Sorry,
environment,
hi, this is Mike Polachnik at Food on the Move. You can hear me?
I can't redirect you though.
Mike, I will try to get someone to get you into the right spot.
Thanks, Amy. So as these changes become more rapid in our environment in response to climate change, it becomes more important for us to document and quantify what's going on in our spaces. And these data can be spotty because studies might be brief or be a small area. And it takes about 5 years of something happening over and over for us to be able to say, this seems to be the new normal. So it can be really hard to put together what is happening. And Amy, if you'll go to the next slide, biological collections like the ones at the Science Museum of Minnesota can inform what is happening. It can fill in these gaps in time and geography, what species were happening at what time. Oh, I'm running out of time. Oh my gosh, you guys. Biological collections can help fill in these gaps so that we can get a better picture of how our Earth is responding to changes in climate. Oh no! Thank you, you guys, for coming. Sorry, Catherine.
And I have to apologize.